Anti-Semitism and other forms of religious bigotry are a seismograph. The more they rattle our world, the greater the cracks to the foundation of our common humanity. And today, the cracks are impossible to ignore. Anti-Semitism, the oldest form of hate and prejudice, is resurgent yet again. Almost every day brings new reports of verbal assaults and physical attacks, of cemeteries desecrated and synagogues vandalized. Just last week, we watched in horror as a rabbi and members of his congregation were held hostage in their synagogue in Texas. Around the world, Jewish boys are warned not to wear the kippah in public for fear of being assaulted. Around the clock, Jewish schools need police stationed outside. And we see many other contemporary manifestations of the centuries-old hatred. We sense it in the startling regularity with which conspiracy theories devolve into heinous anti-Semitic tropes. We see it in the reprehensible way in which protesters against life-saving vaccines demonstrate wearing the yellow star. And we recognize it in the deeply disturbing attempts to deny, distort, or minimize the Holocaust, which are finding fertile ground on the internet amidst growing ignorance and disdain. I was alarmed to learn recently that barely half of the adults worldwide have even heard of the Holocaust. The lack of knowledge amongst the younger generations is worse still. Our response to ignorance must be education. Governments everywhere have a responsibility to teach about the horrors of the Holocaust. We know that when young people learn about the Holocaust, they can better understand the fragility of shared values and democratic institutions, particularly in times of social and economic upheaval. They can learn to detect eerie echoes of the past in the prejudice, xenophobia, and anti-refugee rhetoric of our own time. And by recognizing how easily hate speech can turn to hate crime, they can understand the dark paths it may lead us down if left unaddressed. They may ask why the victims' desperate pleas for help were met with deafening silence, why so few spoke out and fewer still stood up in solidarity. And in asking these questions, they can understand how such silence in the face of hate is complicity. They can understand that the mass murder did not occur in a vacuum, but that it was the culmination of millennia of hatred and discrimination. No society is immune to intolerance or irrationality. 77 years ago, liberation ended the Holocaust. But it was just the beginning of our efforts to make sure such crimes can never happen again. As fewer and fewer can bear direct witness, let us together pledge to always remember and make sure others never forget. Let us stand firm against hate and bigotry anywhere and everywhere. Let us do the work of tikkun olam, to do what we can do to repair our world. And let us stand together for human rights and dignity for all.